Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. Today let's talk about why the CCP sticks to the wolf warrior diplomacy, even though it only made everyone see who the CCP's government really is, just a bunch of clowns. Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan just came to an end. The fact that the Speaker of the House visited this Asian democracy, even after being threatened by China, made the whole world watch the trip closely. Let's also not forget that it has been the first visit of the Speaker of the House in 25 years. 25 years ago, the Republican paid a visit to Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi has officially confirmed to the Taiwanese people that the United States will not give up on Taiwan, and that America's decision to preserve democracy here in Taiwan remains ironclad. It is also important to mention that Nancy Pelosi, being a legislator, represents the will of the American people to support Taiwan. And this visit also showed that it is not hard to break the circle of intimidation by the CCP that has been narrowing around Taiwan for years. And the CCP's image also changed from the wolf warriors, which is the way they wanted to portray themselves as, into just frenzied clowns. The whole world saw that the CCP's red line that you're not supposed to cross can be redrawn or shifted any time. Such an awkward position China found itself in, even shaken the CCP's authority in the eyes of the Chinese people. At the beginning, the CCP didn't know that the results would be as damaging for them, and they found themselves in a very awkward position. Nancy Pelosi's visit only highlighted the uselessness of the Chinese Communist Party. So, now they even had to temporarily shut down Weibo, which is China's bootleg Twitter. They even started publishing fake news through the party's media outlets, trying to open a portal to another dimension, where the world is acting how the CCP wants it to act. For example, the Global Times published an article. According to the foreign media reports, Taiwan's Taoyuan airport has been bombed. Another CCP's mouthpiece, People's Daily, published the following article. PLA's Su-35 planes crossed the Taiwan Strait. And another CCP's media wrote, according to the foreign media, the Grand Hyatt Hotel is haunted. So it's actually interesting. Every time they spread fake news, they write, according to the foreign media. But actually what the CCP is doing, what their media outlets are doing, is just writing some preposterous nonsense and avoid responsibility by saying it's the foreign media, not us. You know, to hide a lie, 1,000 new lies are needed. Later on, many little pinks, CCP appreciators, started asking where did the Su-35 plane go? And did it bring back the news that Taiwan has been occupied by China? Or, how they like to say it, unified with China. Everybody realized soon that it was just a lie. What's interesting, those pinkies have been brainwashed for a very long time to hate the United States, to hate Taiwan, to hate all the foreign countries. But now, they started showing their dissatisfaction with the CCP's government. The communist shell that covers Chinese face culture was broken, and now pinkies think that they lost their face. And of course, the total collapse of China's strong country image only made those pinkies even more angry. Right now, you can see lots of videos where pinkies lose their mind on the Chinese internet. Well, let's take a look at some comments by pinkies on Weibo. Jimmy Xianyu wrote, "Old Hu," meaning Hu Xijin, the former editor-in-chief of the Global Times, "your red line became a joke already. The whole world is laughing at us. It's not just a red line, but rather red underpants. You just broke my red Chinese heart." Another user, Xiaolin Kankan, wrote, "You've been so harsh with your rhetoric before, but after it all happened, it's very hard to compensate for. Chinese citizens are very disappointed. Can you just show some of your revolutionary spirit, or has it all been lost?" The CCP didn't only slap itself in the face this time. They've lost their face in front of many citizens, probably just threw their face into a bottomless pit. So, what did they do later on? They just had to announce military drills circling Taiwan from August 4th till 7th. What's dangerous is that those drills covered some of Taiwan's and Japan's waters. Those drills also caused problems for the international maritime transport. The whole industry has been harassed by China. And yeah, China decided to have its drills around Taiwan when the Speaker of the House Pelosi was in Korea and Japan. Just how stupid could it be? China decided to practice the occupation of Taiwan right before Japan, Korea and the US. Former deputy commander of the Taiwan's Air Force, Zhang Yanting, told in his interview to the reporter that this time the scale of the military drills around Taiwan is different from the similar provocations in 1995 and 1996, when they had multiple small-scale exercises. This time the CCP is going to have drills in 6 locations at the same time, and the overall area covered extends 30,000 square kilometers. kilometers. They're not only encircling Taiwan for the first time, they also extend their military provocations to the eastern waters, which is a direct threat to Japan's security also. There is another thing that makes the current drills different from those from 1996. In 1996, China has been firing the dumbest shells, but this time they're using the real ones. We can only say that China's diplomatic abilities are truly amazing. If they're not going to change the status quo by force now, meaning declare war on the whole free world, then it only shows that they're diplomatic, military and political imbeciles. Alrighty, some people might also ask, so now the whole world knows that the CCP is not wearing pants, referring to a saying, after all you only find out who is swimming naked when the tide goes out. Why do they still double down on their idiotic wolf warrior behavior? Yeah, that question might seem a bit complicated, but the answer is quite simple. The CCP needs an imaginary enemy to maintain the legitimacy of their rule. Currently, China is entering recession. Their economic development is slowing down drastically, so they simply can't rely on economic successes to make the Chinese people support their regime. Therefore, creating hatred, whenever it's ethnic hatred or creating confrontation between countries or even direct military aggression against neighboring countries, these are the best known methods used by dictatorships for thousands of years to divert the attention of the general public from domestic problems and maintain repressive rule. Even though the CCP has been quite proficient in suppression of its people and stability maintenance methods for many years, and it has added various high-tech surveillance equipment to suppress dissidents in recent years, the CCP is still very much afraid of the Chinese public opinion. The main reason of that is that the CCP has been in power for more than 70 years. They have never been responsible for their own failures. And now they're still unwilling to return power to the Chinese people. China has always been dominated by a small number of Communist Party members. And what they're most afraid of is that the Chinese people expose the lies of the Communist Party that will cause the CCP regime to crumble. Therefore, them talking about liberating Taiwan, meaning occupation of Taiwan actually, is one of the reasons they stayed in power for 70 years. You know, if you control the army, then you control everything, just as Mao Zedong said. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun, and breaking the first island chain, building a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific, and replacing the United States as the world's leading power. This will bring legitimacy to the CCP's rule for another 100 years in the eyes of the Chinese. And if they had this legitimacy that comes from military aggression, it will solve all the problems for the CCP. They won't have to care about human rights issues, political competition, social problems with their economy, corruption, education, or aging population. All of these problems can be ignored if the CCP achieves the goal of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, the goal that they made up by themselves, and that only means military expansionism and aggression towards their neighbors. And there is another reason for China's aggression against its neighbors. China is afraid of democracy. The CCP is scared of a society that has rights to choose its leaders, that respects human dignity, and doesn't treat its citizens as property. And seeing a very successful democratic country right at its borders, that's what makes the CCP very uncomfortable. They were afraid of Hong Kong, so they crushed Hong Kong. They're afraid of Taiwan, but Taiwan can protect itself, so their behavior is even more aggressive. You see an Asian country that's located very close to China. They speak the language that the people in China understand. They have preserved traditional culture that China has destroyed. So when Chinese people see Taiwan, see a thriving society, a culturally relatable one actually, they could start thinking, this could also be us. We could also make a country that's like Taiwan, that's respecting human rights, a country that gives its citizens rights to choose. And what will they do next? They'll start doubting the CCP. So, for China, the best way to protect the regime is to make Chinese people hate Taiwan. That's why they're spreading chauvinist propaganda, belittling Taiwan in the eyes of Chinese people. That's what they're trying to do. And that's also the reason they hate the United States so much. Dictatorships are afraid of democracies. Democracy for them is like holy water for a vampire. It can burn through their skin. So, to conclude it all, the CCP's regime is the biggest problem that China currently has. The CCP's officials only gain more power. Their policies only lead to problems China is facing internally and internationally, but the CCP doesn't have to be held accountable for that. And as of the past 70 years, the CCP wasn't boycotted or isolated by the whole world. Quite the opposite. They used the advantages of being a totalitarian regime to make the other countries dependent on them economically. This only caused China to become a bully in Asia, and then in the whole world. Now this bully is also supporting the other bullies, such as Russia's Putin or the Kim dynasty in North Korea or Iran's regime. The CCP's regime is the biggest threat to the world. They're not only threatening their neighbors with war, they're also threatening the whole world. And this war will only stop the world from development. It will deprive many of their well-being. While looking at this regime, I can only think of Stephen King's character Pennywise. Pennywise feeds on fear and becomes stronger. But when you're not afraid of him, he won't be able to damage you. The Speaker of the House of the United States, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan, and many European countries started openly supporting Taiwan. People of the world have to be brave while facing the real-world Pennywise, the CCP. It's the only way to avoid being swallowed by him. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe, and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye-bye!